He encountered a frightened, lonely, ostracized being and saw his own reflection.
Oh, if you say it like that, I feel sad in both ways. So this video is from the Curious Archive, and it is about the dragon paradox. And I don't know what it is about, but it had dragon in it. So I wanted to know, okay? And you will suffer with me again. Yeah, let's find out. Wait, let me cut this up. Let's see if I need the subtitles or not. Oh. Is it loud enough?
The problem started with a book. Actually,
Okay.
I suppose it started with a show.
Does anyone here know Valerian? I want to thank them for the sub. Yeah, usually Valerian is here most of the time. Maybe he will show up again. Yep. The fact that all humans share the concept of a great reptilian dragon. Video's very quiet? Really?
Oh, Dragons, a fantasy made real.
Better?
That I watched enraptured late one school night.
Better?
And you could say it made me a little obsessed.
Okay.
Not just with dragons, but with the paradox right there in the show's title.
The paradox.
Dragons aren't real, the show asked. How does seemingly every culture,
I
no
feel
matter
offended
how
now.
far apart, have legends of the same creature?
True.
It's a question that kind of ruined my life.
Shut up. Hello, nobody. Welcome.
Who are you? I'm the Liquid Dragon.
There's one obvious
Things like this existed for commercial? I love it. Ah, it's so cute.
solution to the dragon paradox. 7-year-old me would have told you. Dragons are real animals. They can just like turn invisible or something, and that's why scientists haven't noticed.
Yeah.
And to be
We are being well hidden, okay? For good reason.
fair to my younger self, the worldwide predominance of the dragon myth is genuinely remarkable.
What do you think about Tabaluga? I don't mind. And Ellie gave me the nickname Tabalina like back in the days, over a year ago.
There is a fascinating anthropological mystery we need to unravel here.
Okay.
But young me wasn't here for that. I was going to prove that dragons existed
Aww.
as living, breathing creatures. So I went to a primary source.
Wait. Oh, maybe I need those books too. That would be interesting. Like the dragon book that I got from Dungeons and Dragons, right?
I had a few dragon books when I was younger, but really I had one dragon book. Dragonology is the text that truly began to slow cook my mind with dragon fever. These pages seem to contain
You also
answers
know that
for my
one?
every burning question. How dragons breathe fire.
I also have a book about different types of dragons and a human ship that is like when the dragons are injured or something like that. Hello, Para. They travel with the ship to the dragon area to just help them, and like if they need some protection, they keep them in the ship, for example, that they can recover in there. It's really, really cool, but it's in German. That's the only negative part. How are you doing today, Para?
How they took flight, the consistency of their dung,
Huh?
and the whole thing
Don't analyze my poop. You don't want to know.
was written from the perspective of a fake naturalist. It's really no wonder I treated it like an actual guidebook.
I'm
it's
okay.
Really no wonder I became
Today
so
is just
obsessed.
okay.
Yet there was a problem. None of my
What happens when you get diarrhea? I sit on the throne and then my cat comes to me and cuddles. That's what happens. Hello, cuties. Welcome. Let me see what joke you have today. What did the plant say to their partner? Don't leave me alone. Bring me with you. Ma. Cute. Thank you so much, cuties.
sources were lining up. Books and documentaries disagreed on whether dragons were friendly or aggressive, two-legged or four-legged. A few
Four-legged! I'm so sorry. This video will trigger me, dude.
meters long or a few hundred.
Thank you, Para.
Looking directly at global myths and legends only frustrated me
I feel
further.
much better already.
Everything seemed inconsistent, like these things were made up. But I wasn't ready to give in.
What the heck is
Obviously,
that?
I reassured myself, there are multiple species of dragon.
Yeah.
And different cultures have interacted with different ones.
Yeah.
This taxonomy-based explanation for divergences in folklore was the loophole many of my favorite pieces of dragon media employed anyway. So I began to obsessively categorize the dragons
That is
of
the right
fiction
way,
and
Tip, yeah.
mythology, disqualifying interpretations that failed to meet my invented criteria for real dragons. If a dragon had hair, not a dragon. If it
See, furry dragons are not dragons. This is a breed. It's like, I don't know. It's like when you breed a tiger with a cat, you know, or like a cat with a lizard, something like that. Only real dragons are bold. No, we're fully scaled. That's the difference. I'm not a furry. I'm scaly.
couldn't fly, not a dragon. If it sang about reading, actually those dragons got a pass. I thought the blue one was cool. Looking back, this full-blown fixation on classification is...
The Asian ones do have some fur here and there, though. Funny enough. Maybe there's like a mixture in them, and that makes it okay again. I don't know.
kind of funny and kind of I spent a lot of time wandering into imagined realms during this period, researching and looking for dragons. And though I remember being happy, I also remember feeling isolated and just generally confused about why everyone seemed to interact with the world so differently than I did. And somehow I thought the solution was to talk about dragons more.
Oh, he's so cute. I love it.
I felt that if I could explain the topic well enough, if I could disentangle the taxonomy and solve the paradox, I could, I don't know.
Meet a dragon. Also, I'm still so excited about the movie How to Train Your Dragon as a real life adaptation. I am so excited to come home and watch it. Ah, thank you. Hello, Goofy. Welcome if you're here.
So it almost felt like fate when at the peak of my dragon-themed social idiosyncrasy, DreamWorks released the first How to Train Your Dragon film. A story about dragons,
such a beautiful
but
movie,
also
man.
otherness, maturity, empathy.
Do you want to watch it when I'm home? When I come back? Then we can watch that as the first one on Sunday. Is that okay?
Loneliness, and being an outsider because you like dragons too much.
Ma.
Yeah, it's no surprise this movie struck a chord with my young self. At its core, How to Train Your Dragon explores why a social outsider might sympathize with or even relate to the non-human or monstrous. At the start of the film, lead character Hiccup desires societal acceptance, which in his Viking culture requires physical strength and an unthinking readiness to commit violence against a demonized other, in this case dragons, two traits he distinctly lacks. When he finally gets the chance to kill a dragon and gain approval, his guilt prevents him from finishing the job.
Haven't seen it since it came out. Would be nice refresh. Also, like a good refresh if you want to see the other one in the cinema, because then you can have like the one-on-one comparison, like as a fresh up, right?
I did this.
Instead, he nurses the creature back to health, and though Hiccup believes the reason he befriended the dragon instead of slaying it is because he's weak and an overthinker, it becomes clear the real reason is because he couldn't help but connect with the dragon's plight. He encountered a frightened, lonely, ostracized being and saw his own reflection.
Oh, if you say it like that, I feel sad in both ways.
Now, I'm not going to act like young me was conscious of all these themes. I was mainly pulled in by the dragon's designs, the music.
The music was so good.
Which is just what it actually sounds like to ride a dragon, I'm sure of it. And the fact the narrative
I hope they keep the
pauses around
music.
the hour mark to show us a detailed classification system. Let's go. Though on some level,
Some nerd shit. Let's go. That soundtrack makes me cry. Ma, don't do that. It's okay. Everything is fine.
I connected my experiences to that of the protagonists, I honestly wasn't self-aware enough to do so more than subconsciously. I remember thinking, wow, it sure would be tough to be an overly obsessive social castaway. Good thing everyone thinks I'm the coolest.
Oh no.
It can be a challenging thing to reflect on your past
Never seen the other
self.
films? I
was
think I
cleaning
saw
out
the
my
second
childhood
one, but
attic
not the third
recently,
one.
and I found some old dragon drawings that brought back mixed memories.
Oh.
Recollections of sitting on my own, creating sketch after sketch. I recall how tightly I pressed the pencil, like I was trying to will dragons into existence through the sheer force of my tiny hand.
That was so cute.
In the book An Instinct for Dragons, anthropologist David E. Jones theorizes that creating art of draconic monsters is a deep-rooted human instinct derived from an intrinsic fear of reptilian predators.
See, I always told you I'm an apex predator. Now you have a video essay that proves it. Did you really have the Dragon Girl saga in your language? Why? Never adopted you. Then why are you all hiding? Man, you do not realize how dangerous humans are, dude.
Scholars disagree with Jones's
You do not
findings.
realize
I
that.
certainly recall my art coming
Freaking
from
parasite.
someplace primal. The truth is, no single explanation for the cultural universality of dragons
See,
is
they're furry
entirely
dragon ones.
sufficient. Looking around the animal kingdom, there's all sorts of species that might have birthed scaly legends in the minds of ancient
The
people. Hell,
babies.
the very word dragon comes from the Latin draconis, a
Yeah.
term synonymous with large snake.
But I'm
But
not
all
large
cultures
snake.
with dragon myths exist in proximity to formidable reptiles. Dinosaur fossils have a broader distribution, and one can certainly imagine how such remains might also conjure draconic images. But direct connections are difficult to
What a
prove
painting.
definitively. The anthropological origins of dragons likely aren't a straight line. Fiction is simple. The truth is, well, it's messy.
It's very messy because everybody has their beliefs. Dragons are cool. Lina's alright, I suppose. Excuse me? Fine. Fine. I would just ignore you again, Para.
I
Fine.
think that's part of why child me held so tightly onto the idea that dragons were literal creatures. I wanted them to be direct, categorizable, something that I could understand and control. I could at least know my dragon facts. Perhaps it's only natural for those who struggle or have struggled with human interaction to seek knowledge of the monstrous. I've been rereading
To maybe
Ryo
see
Kukuri's
connections.
monster-centric manga Dungeon Meshi now that it's being adapted into an anime, and it's kind of wild how closely parts of it track with my personal experience. Well, in a way.
Excuse
What
me,
begins as a
Metra?
standard fantasy adventure narrative quickly goes off the rails. As the protagonist, Laios, an archetypal knight in shining armor, is revealed to be a monster fanatic determined to study and, cook every
Oh,
creature
true. I
in
heard
the
about that
dungeon.
one.
It's like Lord of the Rings meets
you
an
play
episode
Dragon's
of
Dogma?
Chopped. It's so unapologetically bizarre. But Dungeon Meshi ultimately offers a surprisingly nuanced reflection on what it means to process the world differently. Through the series, we're shown
Very true.
Laios cannot pick up on social cues the same way as his peers, nor does he recognize that most people don't want to hear a never-ending barrage of monster facts. Though often framed through a comedic culinary lens, Laios' desire to comprehend the non-human ultimately stems from his difficulties connecting with the human.
Really?
Perhaps Dungeon Meshi's greatest achievement is its ability to pull you into Laios' perspective. Like How to Train Your Dragon, the narrative is willing to
Maybe
slow
we should
down
watch that
and
one
linger
too.
on the granular details of its world, getting so specific with food preparation that if you had monster parts on hand, I think you could cook these meals.
I still will die on the hill. Dragon tail meat is not tasting nice. Stop going for my tail. Just cuddle with it. Okay? Don't eat it.
It's a story just as singularly obsessed with monster biology and their classifications as its protagonist, and teaches the viewer to think in the same terms. And even if you don't share the same particular enthusiasm, that desire to know a topic inside and out, to fully understand the rules of a subject is, at least for me, a relatable one.
It
Though
is.
my obsessions
Absolutely.
aren't exactly the same. I've never wanted to eat dragons.
Good.
I do know what an all-consuming interest feels like.
When I'm hungry, eat a chicken.
But no matter how hard I tried, dragon taxonomy seemed impossible to fully digest. There was no untangling it. The truth I eventually had to face is that the definition of dragons across cultures was looser than my sources had suggested. As it turns out, dragons don't exist in the same way that fish don't exist.
Huh?
Okay, that sounds weird. What I
Yeah.
mean is, we all understand what fish are, but
Yeah.
because all land vertebrates are fish descendants, there's no taxonomic definition of fish that doesn't include humans. Lots of animal taxonomy gets blurry in this way. Like, reptiles make sense as a category of similar-ish scaly creatures, but since birds are descended from dinosaurs, they technically fall under reptilia too, which
True.
does
Hello,
not
Tim.
feel right. That doesn't mean these terms are useless,
Look
just
at
that
those
life's categories
dinosaurs.
aren't as orderly as they seem, and folkloric nomenclature like dragons work the same way. In my attempts to make dragons fit in
Is that a dragon? Is a hydra a dragon? That is a good question. Is a hydra? This is a hydra, no? Is it a dragon? Yeah? I never thought about a hydra. Also never met one. Makes it difficult. Back in the medieval era, a lot of birds that lived near the waters were classified as fish. Really? A hydra is a walking snake salad. Hello, Source.
inflexible structure. I remember following models I'd seen in books.
I will rewatch the video again and play back to the moment where he showed all his books and see if I get my hands on some of them. That would be really interesting. Like, as an overall, I will go the autistic path, man, to study what humans think of dragons. That is my legacy, I guess.
Labeling wingless dragons as drakes or legless dragons as worms. But really, all I was doing was applying false rigidity to terms that, in myth, were more fluid. The worst offender was how I called any two-legged dragon a wyvern. And, okay, this is a rant I've been on before, but it's very close to my heart.
Now I'm curious.
All over the internet, people still claim that any dragon with two legs is automatically a wyvern. In comment sections for Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones, you will find commenters repeating this like it's doctrine, saying that Tolkien or George R. R. Martin are idiots for giving their dragons two legs. Those are obviously wyverns. And I get it. Believe me, I get it. If there is a person on this planet who gets it, it's me. You want clean
I just love his costume, dude. It's so cute.
categories. You want to be experts, but dragons in medieval manuscripts have never had a consistent number of legs.
What the hell is that? That's not a dragon. That's a hydra dog or something like that.
Legs. I wish it were true that wyverns were an exclusive subcategory for two-legged dragons, that folklore divided up creatures like D&D monster types. But mythological taxonomy, like biological taxonomy, is fluid, no matter how much young me wanted to pretend otherwise.
I do the quick cooking.
7-year-old me would have called this blasphemy. But the
Blasphemy.
fluidity of dragon definitions is something that media framing them as real, frankly, takes
Bob.
advantage of. How does seemingly every civilization, no matter how far apart, have legends of the same creature? Well,
That is actually really true. Because until you all met and became like this whole village, which is Earth now, like Earth is a village at this point with the globalization. Before that, all of you had some kind of weird dragon fantasies, right? Wait, what Paris said? Back when England was more religious, people would give up meat for Lent for 50 days. So 50 days of fish gets boring, so they would loophole. Oh yeah, I heard that about some specific religion practices too. That I think like ducks, for example, were categorized as a fish because they're on the water, and that water, like there was a way they could not consume water, but beer was okay, and I don't know why, but it is what it is.
they don't. Not really. The definition of dragon is so decentralized that countless, likely unrelated creatures across cultures can be made to seem draconic if you squint. So many of the categories applied to dragons are arbitrary. It's questionable that the relatively modern Western dragons are often called true dragons, considering that the serpentine dragon model more common in other parts of the world is almost certainly older. Yet it's hard to let go, or at least it was for me. To resist that urge to group everything by type.
One of the best
It's
Pokémon.
hard not to wish dragon classification worked more like...
Let's now turn to Nintendo's newest game, Pokémon.
I think that for a lot of people, the desire for rigid categorization of fictional creatures comes...
I mean, humans just like to do that, like categorizations and stuff. It's just ingrained in your pattern, basically. If they didn't have safe, clean drinking water, they would drink beer. Yeah. Absolutely, I know that. Thank you, Zolti. I know that. It is weird though.
Comes from one franchise in particular. I never had a Game Boy or DS to play Pokemon on growing up, but I didn't need to play the games to know I liked their dragons. Specifically, I liked that they were categorized. A series all about types, Pokemon seemed made for me. I remember how ecstatic I was when I finally got my hands on an old Pokemon encyclopedia at a yard sale.
Cute.
Finally, I thought, here's a franchise that values creature classification the way I do. The pedantic little complainer that I was, I remember vocally objecting to what Pokemon placed in the dragon type. Many of the creatures bestowed that title hardly seemed scaly, scary, or dragon-y enough to be deserving of the designation. And
I was always like a bit confused when I saw a dragon Pokemon and it did not look like a dragon. I'm like, huh? What? Where? How? My 40k figures came, but sadly they sent them to a store to pick up. Tim, maybe you can pick it up tomorrow. There's an apple that's a dragon. Huh? Okay, man.
other Pokemon I thought should qualify didn't make the cut. I always figured this was just a me thing, but while researching for this video,
it was not a you thing. I did the same.
Lots of people share my opinion and have taken to the internet to complain. People have strong feelings about Pokemon classification, a fact I learned when I mixed up the regions in my old Pokemon biology video, which is still the mistake I've gotten the most comments about. And I think that's great. Seriously, I understand that kind of passion. But in the case of Pokemon's dragon type, I wonder if we're being a bit too harsh. Dragons in folklore aren't as consistent as we like to pretend. If medieval artists didn't have to limit their imagination with what counted as a dragon, maybe Pokemon artists shouldn't either. Maybe forcing things that are made up to follow strict taxonomic parameters is a little limiting. Weirdly enough, I actually think the How to Train Your Dragon series is what eventually allowed young me to overcome my obsession with fictional rigidity. Because those films almost completely threw out the plot of the original books, and I remember
that is a chonka. Look at that chonka. It's in the second movie. He's a freaking chonka. Man, those horns. Look at him. Look at him. Wait, let me show you the full glory of this thing. Look at that thing. Look at it. Impressive. Majestic. Good design. That to be a unit. And it can fly. Do you see those wings? There, the whole wing connection is on the whole back of it. And the tail goes way down there. It's really big.
Original books, and I remembered not caring. And this was at the age where if an adaptation was even slightly different from the book, I took it upon myself to care. A lot. But these films had their
Look
own
how big it
themes
is.
and needed to rework how dragons function conceptually to fit those themes. In the books, Hiccup's dragon...
Are you also that big in Dragon Form, Lina? Yeah, kinda. When we played the Doom on Friday, we were in that mecha suit. And you kinda had a similar view that I have in full glory. The Ergo movie does not exist. I have a confession. I still haven't read the Aragon books, but that means we can read them together when I read it out as an audio thing. I have to go already. Sorry. Don't worry. Thank you for being around, Chip. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
And Toothless is this weedy little thing, not an intimidating personification of the unknown, and Vikings and dragons get along from the start. But directors Dean DeBois and Chris Sanders recognized a narrative about an outsider connecting with the monstrous required a rework of the established lore. And even young me could admit it made the story better. For the first time, I remember considering if fictional uniformity was perhaps a little juvenile. I wish I could say my fixation on dragon class.
Look at Smaug. Look at this pathetic. I know it's not Smaug, but look at this pathetic thing. Being killed by one arrow. I'm still making fun of this shit. Smaug is such a weakling, such a tiny baby getting killed by one arrow. Hate it.
Classifications ended
Pathetic.
peacefully as the natural result of outgrowing the subject. But that's not what happened. On the cusp of my teenage years, fear of seeming immature, of being an outsider, led me to go full scorched earth, trying to erase any record of my childish interests. You might have noticed I used a stock image for my Pokémon encyclopedia. That's because I threw the real copy away.
Oh no!
And I wanted to throw my dragon books away too. I would have if they hadn't gotten lost in a box years ago.
Good that they got lost for a moment.
The same is especially true for my drawings, which to preteen me were, as something I created, an excruciating reminder of the person I used to be. If they hadn't too been forgotten, I honestly might have burned them.
No!
And it's hard. Even now it's hard to overcome that fear of childishness. There is still, on some level, someone else's voice in my head telling me I should laugh at and belittle my past self for... What?
Yeah.
Having an imagination?
Yeah, having interests, having joy.
I said at the beginning of this...
Like the curiosity to find out something. Why you should look at it badly on it, like in a bad way. I don't see it in a bad way. Right?
Video that the question of how so many cultures have legends of the same creature kind of ruined my life.
No,
That's
don't say that.
Not entirely fair. Yes, dragons, a fantasy made real, just appeared on TV one day with footage of what looked like a real scientist finding a dragon's corpse. Yes, that convinced me that dragons were real, kicking off a lifelong fixation. But is that the documentary's fault?
No.
The narrator guy does say, what if the legends were true? It was 7-year-old me who heard the legends are definitely true, and it's your job to prove it.
That's
to be
so
honest,
cute.
I was probably always going to turn out the way I did. It's just how I was made.
That's okay.
It's a curious thing to be born different. You can feel the shape of this person you were expected to be, and you find yourself wondering why you aren't that person. And I still don't know exactly what's up with me. I don't have the precise label or category for it.
Or talking donkeys.
Likewise, as I'm sure you've probably guessed, there is no single solution to the dragon paradox, which, yes, I know isn't strictly a paradox. And maybe it's a grown-worthy conclusion that the real answer was the friends or dragons we made along the way, but that feels right to me. Dragons have been with us since civilization's beginning. It's actually possible that, like most languages, all draconic myths stem from the same ancient root. It's also possible that making dragons is just something that humans do.
Yeah.
That we independently find them in pieces of driftwood, in bends of rivers, in the patterns of the sky. There's evidence that a 3rd century Chinese historian labeled dinosaur fragments as belonging to a dragon around the same time peasants did the same thing with whale remains a continent away in Central Europe.
Interesting.
And when I think about these past humans, linked through how they chose to imagine a more exciting explanation for the phenomena around them, I like to picture a connection across time to my younger self, doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I've spoken in past tense a lot in this video about who I was, the person I used to be. But I mean, a quick glance at my channel and the sheer number of...
When I look at that in a bit, wait a minute. Society is considered a conceptual leviathan. That is interesting to see it. Well, my dog is starting to get mad at me. Go a walkie. Go do a walkie. Bye bye. Have fun telling that wyvern and dragons are the same thing. I try my best to just accept it, okay? I'm trying my best. I want to be a good role model. So I do my best, okay?
Of dragons and creature classification videos I've made, and it's clear that's all still a part of me. I've just found
And that's okay. That's still a part of him. Lina needs a walkie too, or she's being the car. No, I will snap your head up because my hormones are freaking crazy today.
ways to manage my obsessions and channel them into new outlets, and though teenage me might be mortified, I think it's important to make peace with your past selves instead
Yeah.
of trying to bury them. While making this video, sorting through the remnants of my childhood, I started thinking about how I haven't drawn anything in a while. So I picked up my pencil again.
Yeah, good.
Dragons still fascinate me.
Pick
and
up the
it's clear
pencil.
They still fascinate the world as well, continuing to be part of culture, changing forms as worldviews shift.
I already had
Never been
ice
so
cream.
beholden to strict categories. I wouldn't want it any other way. And as always, thanks for watching.
Thank you for
This
the
ended
video.
up being more of a personal essay than I had anticipated. But hey, if you enjoyed this entry, please lend your support by
That was
liking,
really
subscribing,
cute.
and hitting
That
the
was really
notification
cute.
icon. It helps me out tremendously.
Mhm.
See you in the next video, and stay curious.
I love the last thing. Stay curious, man. That's so important.